Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I first just want to say that I recognize it has been a while since I have been on the channel here. I took about a month off recently, and I just want to talk a little bit about why I did that and how it relates to all of the things that we talk about here in this channel and in my business and with my clients. So, as you guys know, I am an emotional resiliency coach, and I teach my clients and I teach each of you guys how to process difficult emotions, how to develop emotional resiliency, how to build positive emotions and cultivate and create positive emotions in lieu of the negativity that we so often experience in the world. And we apply a lot of the tools that I teach specifically to relationships, and career is another one. But this year we're focusing pretty heavily on relationships and talking about creating relationships you love. We just finished that past 6-week series, and we're getting ready to launch the next one here in a couple of weeks. So if you guys want to talk about creating boundaries, managing expectations, how to be a better partner, all that kind of stuff, unconditional love, we're going to talk about when to leave and when to stay, making decisions inside of relationships, all kinds of stuff, managing expectations. And so it's an amazing 6 weeks, a lot of really core foundational tools that we're going to teach in that series. So I want to officially invite you to participate. Shoot me an email and I'll get you the link to register for that. But one of the things that I decided to add to this 6-week series is we're going to first talk about, one of the things about creating relationships you love. A lot of these tools are geared towards relationships with other people, right? And they can apply to a relationship with a partner, but it can also apply to your relationships with your kids, your parents, your boss, your coworkers. Boundaries and communication and decision making is pretty universal human skill set here that we need for having relationships with humans. But one of the things that's so important before we even really get into all of the tools for having a relationship with other people that we didn't talk about last time and that I want to include this time around is these components, this component about our relationship with ourselves. And so before you have a healthy relationship with someone else, you have to have a healthy relationship with yourself, right? And we can talk in more detail as we move forward about why that's so important. But, as we wound up that 6-week series, the week following that, I had a pretty hard week. And I had a lot of really difficult things come up for me in my life. And so my own skills were put to the test here as it relates to processing difficult emotions and going through hard stuff. And I want to say right in the beginning, when all of this stuff first started to happen, I had 2 or 3 really big life events that kind of all came to a head at the same time, and I was very emotionally triggered in the midst of that. There was a lot of grief initially that came with some of the news that was delivered to me about sick friends and kind of being faced with the loss of a lot of things, dreams, relationships, and things that were really out of my control, and it took me by surprise. So I kind of got sideswiped with the loss of some things that were very dear and important to me, and it felt very painful. And something happened in my brain where I didn't handle it well, and I got triggered into fight or flight mentality, right? My whole nervous system was highly escalated, and my logical thinking shut down, and I was just very emotional. And the way that we show up in relationships when that happens, when we're extremely emotional, varies from person to person, but it all comes down to these coping mechanisms and these survival mechanisms that we learn from a really young age. And so as we move forward, I'm going to teach you what all this can look like. For some people, they can become very controlling. For some people, they can become very mean. For some people, they turn into a doormat. They become a pushover. Some people, they people please, and that's their way of surviving in the world, getting people to like them, maintaining connection, community, which is really important, especially, in our primitive brain. We know deep in our psyche that we're built for connection, and that when things feel scary and hard, that connection is a way to survive. And so there's all these ways that we kind of manipulate that. For some people, they turn to drugs or food in order to feel better. For some people, it's relationship. Again, some people get mean, they get controlling. Some people get really needy, which was the one that showed up for me and has in other times in my life. And when that doesn't work, I'll pick up a different one, right? A different persona, a different mechanism, a different thing to try. Sometimes that does end up being, like, for me, a controlling type of, or cruel, mean, well, I don't need anyone, and putting other people down in order to feel better for ourselves. There's all these behaviors that come as a byproduct of emotional triggering and emotional wounding and fear. And it's, again, it all comes from the belief system in your brain. What are you believing about the world, about your life, about other people? And so I'm going to walk you through how all this works. So don't worry about it if it's a lot to understand right now, especially if this is new to you. I'm going to show you step by step where these behaviors come from, these problematic behaviors, how we get triggered, why the behaviors that are destructive come out the way that they do, and I'm going to also show you, so what do we do about it? Because this is a really key component to being able to have healthy relationships and to maintain healthy relationships. And I want to tell you, if you have, like me, ever made a mistake or done something that you regretted, we all do this. This is human. And so we're going to talk about self-compassion. We're going to talk about love, forgiveness, all this kind of stuff. Other people may not forgive you, but you can forgive yourself. And also we're going to talk about how do you forgive other people when they show up in really destructive ways or mean ways or overbearing or whatever it might be. And so we're going to talk about how do we create relationships we love? How do we heal from disconnection? How do we reconnect? How do we forgive? How do we come together again when hard things come up? And we're also going to talk about when we get triggered the way that I did, right? Finding out that someone I love potentially maybe declining some treatment for a terminal illness. That's something I can't control. Losing the dream of a baby was a big one for me. Even though it's something that I wanted to let go of, I worked really hard for it for over a year. So there was a lot of emotional connection to that, right? So all these big things kind of happening at a certain time, there was a belief in my brain that I'm like, I can't tolerate this, and I have to find this way to find connection or find whatever. This is the thing that's going to make me feel better and feel okay in the midst of this emotional crisis that I'm just not sure how to deal with, which of course wasn't true, right? We're all capable of processing through these difficult emotions, but sometimes it doesn't feel like we can take it. So that's an extra component to this 6-week series that I'm going to add in for free, okay? So we're going to talk about creating relationships you love. We're going to talk about boundaries and expectations and communication and decision making and when to leave and when to stay and how to love and how to be a better partner and all this good stuff. And I'm going to add in a couple different weeks worth of content around what are the destructive behaviors or the destructive mechanisms, what are our go-to defense mechanisms that we bring into relationships? How can we heal ourselves? What are the emotional wounds? What are the belief systems that happen? And how can we heal our relationship with ourselves? How can we heal our triggers and our wounds so that we can show up as the most whole, most happy, most healthy versions of ourselves? And then that's what's going to allow us to really be a better partner to someone else. And so the reason I took a month off of my YouTube channel and all of this was to really, to go through this material and really learn it for myself so that I can teach it to you, because I only teach the things to you that I have applied and really gone through. So I wanted to spend some time doing that. But I will say too that this work of healing our own emotional wounds and figuring out where these these triggers come from, figuring out where these behaviors come from that might be impacting relationships with others. This is emotionally draining work, and so I want to mention again this component of self-care and really taking care of yourself. And so if that means taking a month off, for me that's what that meant. I wanted to take some time off and just focus on really doing this work, and that's okay, right? So if you're somebody that needs to take a break from something while you're doing this work, take a break. You know, if that means not signing up for every PTA thing with your kids, and going the extra mile, then take a break. Whatever it is that you're needing in order to get enough sleep and to take care of yourself. For me, this meant going home and spending some time with my family, right? That's a really healing thing for me. And as I was going through this really deep emotional work and understanding everything that just happened and forgiving myself and forgiving the other person and really developing a higher level of understanding of emotional growth, for me, I needed that nurturing for myself. And so I want to ask you to really think about that too for you. What does that mean? Does it mean going for a hike, going for a camping trip? If it's with a partner, maybe it means just asking for a little extra space or asking for a little extra support. It can look a lot of different ways, but I just wanted to take a moment to give you space to think about what does self-care and self-love and self-compassion look like for you. Because if you're going to go through this work with me, that's going to be a really important component. I want you to nurture yourself, love yourself, really build yourself up, and then I'm offering to take you through some transformational work that will change your life. It will transform your relationships, I promise. And this isn't something that you're going to learn anywhere else. So I officially invite you to send me an email and go through this 6-week series with me on creating relationships you love. And when you sign up for that, you're going to get this free bonus offer talking about trauma triggers and how to transform our relationships with ourselves. All right, I love you guys, and with that, we're back on track with everything that I have coming up for you over the next couple weeks, okay? Thanks for bearing with me this last month and giving me the space that I needed to take care of myself. And as a big thank you, here comes some rad material on healing, on identity, on belief, on self-love, and I will see you guys all inside. All right, bye-bye.